and welcome to Cookery with Mason Storm. In this video we are going to be making apple pie. This is a special apple pie recipe. It's kind of a mix between apple pie and apple crisp, and I like both of those things, so it's great. The recipe comes from my mother's sister, and I think she got it from some book somewhere in the 80s or 70s, and if I can find the name of it I'll put that in the description. But anyway, let us get started. So first we start by rolling out our pie crust and getting it inserted into the appropriate size pie plate. This pie has a few different sections. It has a topping, and then it has the filling. And you can make the filling first, but it's best to do it later on because the apples will brown if they're not used quick enough, so it makes more sense to do the topping before doing the actual batter itself. So that's what we'll be doing in this adventure. To start the topping, we combine all the ingredients except for the butter. So 2/3 cups of flour, half a cup of brown sugar, and a teaspoon of cinnamon. And we just kind of mix it around to get rid of all the lumps, to kind of smooth it all out so we have a nice fine consistency. And once we achieve that, we'll add the butter to the mix. 1/3 cup of butter. And once we have it in the bowl, we can use our fancy tool to mix it in. You can also do this with a fork and be kind of gentle with it. It's not like you're trying to beat it in to death. It's just kind of like a folding in process to try to get the butter distributed amongst the rest of the batter. And this will make kind of the crisp portion that goes on the top of the pie, which really kind of seals the deal. And you can use even more cinnamon if you want, because I think that definitely enhances the experience. I would like to use the Saigon cinnamon. I kind of think it tastes really good with this type of pie. You could use other cinnamons. I'm sure we've tried them before, but it's just different little ways to try to enhance what you're making, I think. Now for the main part, we start off with 1 cup of sour cream, 1 egg, fork beaten, 3/4 cups of white sugar, 1/4 cup of flour, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and apples, 4 cups approximately. Okay, let's get started on beating that egg. But before I go any further, I just want to point out that when you're using sour cream in a pie, you should always get the high fat cream because it tastes one heck of a lot better. And if you're already eating a pie, I mean, it's not really a thing of low fat or whatever. I mean, just get it to taste as good as you possibly can. I mean, you don't need to eat a whole ton of it, just have your slice and be done. Although I won't judge, so eat as much pie as you want. It's awesome. So once we have our egg beaten, we start combining our other ingredients. And this makes kind of like almost like a slurry. And it's quite good. The sour cream that goes so good with the apples. And as far as apple selection goes, we like using Granny Smith. So you have the sour apples with the sour cream, and it makes this really creamy, thick sauce. And it's just fabulous. This pie is just amazing. As far as the apple preparation goes, we have to peel them first, and then we'll slice them up. And it's best to get apples that aren't all totally bruised up because they peel a lot nicer. And in this particular batch, we didn't have enough Granny Smith, so we had to use some other apples as well. And kind of having mixed apples, it tastes good. It's just just another way to kind of be a little bit different. You can really change up the recipe too, using different apple types. You know, some of the more sweet ones can really give you a little bit more of a contrast too. So you have that kind of sweet and sour thing going on with the sour cream, and it can be quite interesting. It's a very versatile recipe that way. You could probably also use the same recipe and use peaches instead of apples if you wanted to. Now that would really change it. You'd have to change your pie cook time, I think. You might even have to do pre-bake the pie crust like we did in the other video, but there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of mix it up to try out new things and experiment. My mother always says experiment is her middle name. We've had some really interesting meals out of that. As far as the slices of the apples go, you want to have them, you know, not super thin, but not really thick either. Kind of like a quarter of an inch, probably like 6mm thick slices. So, and then we just mix them all into the slurry. And because we have everything else already, our apples aren't going to be sitting out for very long, so they're not going to brown on us, which is really good. I don't know if having an apple look a little bit brown before you bake it changes the taste of it that much, but I've never really tested it out. But I'm assuming it degrades the experience. But this way seems to work to get around that. It's all about the order of operations. Now that we have our apples all cut up, we will combine our apples with our mixture, our sour cream mixture. Just kind of folding them around, not being too violent or aggressive, just kind of combining. And then we can move on to the, well, like a second last stage of making the pie, which will move the apples into the center of it. And then the trick at this point is to kind of poke the apples around, that way there's no like real voids or anything, and kind of have them all evenly distributed around the pie shell. And once we're satisfied with that, then we can take our topping mixture and kind of cover the whole top of the pie. Now that we have our pie all prepared, we will get it in the oven. 375 degrees, 50 minutes. In our oven it took closer to an hour and a half. It takes a while to cook this pie. The trick to telling when the pie is ready is to use a knife and stab in and feel kind of just how tender the apples are. If the apples are cooked, it's done. And there we go, apple pie. This is part of our Food Holiday Around the World series. This is National Dessert Day, October the 14th. So till next time, stay awesome.